Towards when your brother introduced you to LSD after your motorcycle accident, what was your first, I mean, you speak about it, there's a chapter called First Acid, but tell us immediately how you felt it, how you felt this was different from every other drug you had tried.
I had to be at a place where I wasn't afraid, because there weren't a lot of people taking LSD in 1966. The hippie movement was just getting started, and there was a lot of bad things happening around drugs, and there were stories of people taking LSD and jumping out of windows thinking they could fly. There were stories of people taking LSD and staring at the sun until they went blind. And so I knew it was dangerous. But when I took my first tab of acid, I was at a state of mind where I didn't care if it killed me or if I went insane.
You really didn't care?
No.
Well,
I really didn't care.
You gotta tell me more about that. How do you get to the point in your life where you really don't care?
Well, that's hard to put into words. It was just like my life was meaningless.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that's about as well as I can describe it. My life was going to work in the machine shop, getting drunk, getting wired on speed, riding my motorcycle until I broke it, and I just didn't see anything else.
And how old were
I was
you?
locked into that loop, like just an endless loop. I was about 23.
Wow. Wow.
And
that is pretty depressing for a 23-year-old.
Yeah. And I was already seeing through what I thought was the rat race. I didn't want to participate in the rat race, the rat race of society. I didn't have ambition to be rich, or to be famous, or to be powerful, or to be a social climber, and I saw that as being phony.
I see.
And I think being drunk and wired and stoned on marijuana all the time, you kind of make excuses why you don't participate in society.
Okay.
And I think that although the phoniness of the rat race was true, and there's truth in that, I was also using that as an excuse to not participate, in society, or participate with my other fellow human beings.
But that was fairly common for the mid-60s, right?
It was. It was. But my first LSD experience, I remember I was on my way to work, and I thought, I'm going to go home and take LSD. And I had a capsule in the refrigerator that I'd been hanging on to for a long time. And I went home and I took it, and I called my brother, and he came over. It's good to have somebody watch over you.
So you don't jump out the window.
So you don't jump out the window, or you don't stare at the sun, or you don't cut yourself all up with razor blades, or do something trying to get a demon out, or you just never know how it's going to go.
Okay. Every time is different.
Every time is different. Yeah. And so you can't really predict what's going to happen. But my first experience was very positive. I was able to see into dimensions that I hadn't seen into before. I saw that there was kind of like when you blow a dog whistle, the dog can hear it, but you can't. Because the dog whistle vibrates at a higher frequency than the human ear can pick up. Well, LSD seemed to open me up to frequencies that I wasn't able to access in my normal state of consciousness. So I was able to see that, what we see and what we hear with our senses is only part of reality.
Okay.
And that really opened up a whole new way of life for me, was to explore my own mind, try to realize the potential within the self.
Orange Sunshine is very much a book about spiritual awakening. And what I found fascinating was that in the midst of everything that you had been through, you're literally looking for your spiritual truth. I know that you do practice the spiritual path, and I know that you do meditate. What, if you could sort of give me your LSD experience versus your true spirituality experience, are they related? Is one completely different than the other? Like, how did you know when you were on your LSD trip before you went on a spiritual path that you were really seeing the truth of it all? How did you know it wasn't just another facade?
I'd always believed in a power greater than myself.
Okay.
I was born with that, with that I was always okay that there was a God. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I thought that God was malevolent, mm-hmm. but I always knew there was a power greater than myself. When I'd be in a I'm going to blame society and God for everything kind of a mood, mm-hmm. then I'd think God was some kind of a practical joker up there. But I always knew that there was an intelligence to the universe and a creator. So I didn't have a problem with acknowledging a power greater than myself. The LSD, there were experiences I had with the LSD that were so frightening that I had to call on that higher power to bring me back.
In the midst of the experience?
In the midst of the experience. And
you got to give me an example. What would scare you enough? Because you seem pretty fearless, to be honest. From reading this book, I can't imagine you being afraid of too much. What's an example of what really caused you to call on that power?
I got into such a dark place that I didn't, in my mind, it was like opening a door that says, don't open this door. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think I'd be able to get back out. Mm-hmm. It's a little hard to describe. It's, kind of like being lost in the desert. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think I would be able to return to my normal state of consciousness, and then therefore I wouldn't be able to function. Mm-hmm. And therefore I would have to be a burden on society. Ooh. And that scared me. Yeah. And it also scared me that I realized I was playing with forces that were so far beyond my knowledge and so far beyond my ability to control that it was just too awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's been mystics and people who have stumbled onto these states of mind, states mm-hmm. of consciousness, all throughout humanity. Mm-hmm. And whether they're shamans or medicine men or witch doctors, yogis, mm-hmm. the experiences seem to be pretty universal. Got it. Okay. And I felt unprepared. Mm. It was kind of like plugging in a 110 appliance into a 220 line. Okay. I thought that I would just fry me, blow my circuits out. Okay. And when I called on that power greater than myself to come take over and get me out of it, that's a humbling experience. Yeah. to know that that you're not able to handle everything. Mm-hmm. And that you do have to call on a power greater than yourself, a higher power.